All right, impromptu live stream with the Dryceman. You want to introduce yourself in case people don't know?
Yeah, Scott Ailes. I'm the old ASMR guy. You know what that is, right?
Yeah. The guy who talks too much when he's trying.
No,
they just want to see you cleaning dirt off of stuff. They don't want to see you talking.
Can you get me? When you come back, will you get me a torque wrench and a breaker bar?
We don't have that.
Because everybody thinks that I don't know the difference. Because I in my latest video, I screwed up and I said that we take the wheels.
We're not going to waste it. Don't listen to him. Close the door. Let's get it.
We take the wheels off with a torque wrench.
So Scott Ailes is here. I thought it'd be a good time. We have some updates on the dry ice front. I know Chris has been working on getting my ice scheduled so that I can have a regularly scheduled delivery here, so I can start using my machine now that my compressor's operational. Now I just have to run all the lines and all that stuff, which we're going to do probably next month. But we have some updates on the front of some of the bigger machines, and we have some, you have some more discovery of getting the machines out in the wild. How many machines do we have out? Like 70 or so, something like that?
Not that many.
Oh. How many?
37.
Okay, so half of 70. We got 37 machines out in the wild being used by people.
Yeah.
And so we'll go through some of the things that we've seen and some of the stuff. So to get people up to date, the Evo is the current machine. It's $10,000, which we understand is a lot of money. But it is a machine that could completely transform. We're calling that like the detailing machine, right?
Correct. Yeah.
I guess it's not really a machine. There's no moving parts to it, though.
Yeah, there is a few.
The Evo is not what you used to clean the underside or let's say restore the underside of my E36.
Right.
That was a much bigger machine, much bigger compressor, much bigger dryer, much bigger system. This one we can attach to a 5 horsepower air compressor. The bigger the better, but it works on a smaller compressor,
right?
And it'll make that compressor work really hard. But this is like you clean engine bays, you clean wheels, you clean tires. You can do
cloth interior, carpets.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff with it. Adhesive removal. You're taking an emblem off. So it's really the finer detail machine. And then we have coming some of the big boys that would be used for, and really it's air delivery. You need that for that.
Yeah, I mean the significance was there wasn't anything under 15 grand in the U.S. And so we found the best producer in our opinion. The Slovakians are an incredible handmade machine. It's not a bunch of China parts thrown together. It's the real deal. And if you ever watch the video, their place, this is like a freaking laboratory. It's amazing. So the machine's great and it's very robust. There's a couple shortcomings that are obvious to anybody that gets their machine right out of the gate. It's not that easy to get dry ice. You don't just like call up your local supplier and they love you and can't wait to hear from you. They're almost a little bit abusive toward people that buy smaller quantities, and that's a hurdle. It's like anything in life. If you're going to get knocked down by the first hurdle, don't even start. Right. I mean, don't even go there. I mean,
it's hard to pioneer this. No one else is doing this kind of stuff. And so, sorry, I'm just looking for the YouTube comments. Don't let me sidetrack you.
Yeah, that's right.
It's been a
and I'd say half. Literally, because a lot of these guys that bought these machines are friends of mine for 20, 30 years. Half of the guys called first day, hey, it's working, but geez, I'm just not getting the results I thought I'd get, and it's freezing up. I'm like, okay, well, you remember when I recommended strongly that you get a desiccant dryer because you're in a humid area? I know, but... And so, we've had to work through some of those challenges, and we are, and, that's the part that people don't get, is you can't sell a piece of equipment this specialized and it's so new to the market and not have after support, and that's what we do. And so you want to play the game and go over to Europe and order an Evo from one of the other distributors that doesn't even know how to use it and how we use it and save some money. we've had people brag about that. Oh, I found the same machine cheaper over in Europe. It's like, well, good for you.
Welcome to my life.
Guess what? Guess what? You don't. You didn't know about the machine until we told you.
Yeah, but you and I talked about this. Most people, I would say probably half the people are not. They're in it for them. They're in it to win. Yeah. You're going to cut in line. Everything they do, cut corners, and those people generally they cheat their way through life, and that I think that comes around at them. But yeah, it really does stink that we're doing all this work. I mean. We're certainly not in the positive here, are we?
No, we're not. So. I mean, we have inventory, and I felt like there's a few entities that kept this from the car space for years. I mean, they literally tried not to sell it to car people. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was shocked to actually hear people say it that way. Hey, don't call the car people back.
Yeah.
They won't buy. I'm like, well, that's just not true.
Yeah, well, that's the entire Obsessed Garage model is to find things. I was just spent an hour on the phone with a pressure washing manufacturer that they're like, no way. And then by the end of it, I had them saying, well, maybe. Yeah. And a lot of it is they don't want to disrupt their current distribution model. And unfortunately for the world, most people, they get to a certain point in life and they shut her down. They just put it on cruise control. I just can't relate to that. It's hard for us as entrepreneurs I just want to, if I find something that's working, let's put the gas on and then let's figure out 57 other ways to make it faster. Yeah, and that's unfortunately, especially in the professional tool industry, there are gatekeepers, and those gatekeepers aren't particularly highly motivated individuals.
Well, and it's an old business model.
Yeah.
They've never graduated to how this particular version of business can work, and it is interesting. I've been associated with several entities before you and yours, and they, if we did anything that had any exposure or impact, they felt like they did it.
Yeah.
They don't recognize, the social platforms.
Well, if they admit it, then they're not. Then they don't have a place. I have that with lots of the vendors that I've kind of put on the map, and they've really taken off, and they would never admit it. That I had anything to do with it. So the Evo machines, the biggest concern everybody has is getting ice, right? And so I want to help a little bit with that because I was the main champion of this message, right? Like, I don't want 500 pounds of ice. Yeah. I want 100 pounds of ice because I'm probably going to waste most of that. And then I did the math. And what is ice, 40 cents, 60 cents a pound?
Today? Yeah. The range is 50 to literally $2.50 a pound. Okay. So if you call without, here's another element of, okay, you buy a machine from Europe, and you have no association with anybody here. Mm-hmm. So you buy a machine from us, and you call and say, Scott, I just called the dry ice supplier, and he wants $2.50 a pound. What do I do? Well, I'll fix that for you. Not that I can just automatically wave the wand, but there is a cartel that controls CO2 in the U.S. Mm-hmm. They don't like to refer to themselves as that, but it's very locked down, and we're pretty low in the pecking order. Mm-hmm. So we're growing. We have 56 people in our Patreon group, 20 of which are operating today. Mm-hmm. So we got a little clout now. And that's what we didn't have earlier this year. We have enough buyers of the product that we can, push our weight around just a little bit, at least get some attentiveness to our clients that buy these machines. I've
just get a fair price. So this is through what Airgas will make a call.
There's Airgas and Continental Carbonic. There's a bunch of companies, and one of those entities is going to connect. They're going to put the dots together, and they're going to say, you know what? Let's really try to help and work with those guys. They are growing. We're scaling.
So I call up Airgas, and I'm going to get, let's say it's reasonable pricing, 50 cents a pound.
Sure.
So I'm going to get 500 pounds.
Yep.
That's $250.
Right. And
so I just spent 10 grand on the machine and 10 grand on an air compressor. And then I was quibbling over, well, it's $250, and I say I do that once a month. that's help me with the math. It was at $3,000 a year.
Yeah.
I think it's worth it for cleaning. I wonder how much I spend on soap in a year, and detailing supplies in a year. So this would probably actually eliminate a lot of the soap and detailing supplies that I'm using in a year. And so, granted, not everybody's going to do that, but if you got 10 G's to buy a machine, I think over the course of the year you got 3 G's to put toward the machine, especially if you're making money off of it.
Well, so the guys that are doing it for hire are charging with the machine, the Evo.
Mm-hmm.
They're charging $150 an hour.
Yeah.
And I would before someone chimes in and says, "Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous," goes on those bents. Until you actually hold the gun and use it and see what it does, and then as a customer get your car cleaned with it.
Yeah.
You can't say it isn't worth it, because it is. I mean, if it wasn't worth it, I wouldn't have succeeded in the spring of 2019 through today, as well as brought 50 guys into the space. So it's not about, hey, this might work, or I think this is going to work, or you should try this. We've proven it all the way through.
So the ice thing is going to take time.
Yeah.
The machines, do you think pricing, like if you were to make a projection, what do you think pricing will happen over the next 5 years on them? Because a comment here from Wish the Morrow says, can't wait until these units can reach a price point where they make sense for a bike shop.
Yeah.
I don't know what that price point is. I would guess it's probably $5,000 or less for something like that.
Well, it's actually quite surprising. If I challenged someone to get a machine for free, that would not ensure success. The price of the machine is really almost immaterial. I understand it's material, but the reality is that these machines are going to be, an Evo-like machine will only be $1,000 when there's 30,000 people that will buy them.
Yeah.
Then they can set up a factory and make them like cars.
Right, and they'll start cost cutting, and it won't be as good. Right.
So the key to this, like I tell my guys that are thinking about when they're going to launch, you have an opportunity to make $150 an hour today.
Mm-hmm.
That's $1,000 for one day's work.
Right. In 10 days,
why are you waiting?
Right.
What was it?
So and I would guess, man, if I had known, like if my bike guy would pitched me on, hey, it's $150. I'm gonna take an hour. I'm gonna basically restore your bike every time I clean it. I would do that every time he came to service my bike, and so I would guess for his shop, you'd be surprised. You'd probably have that thing running all day.
The first
bike, upsell every one of your customers.
I did a barn find bike 2 years ago in Chicago for a client where I sold a machine to a guy, and hey, I give it a try, see what'll happen. It was a '60s version BSA, and the guy was gone for 4 hours, came back. He paid $2,200 for this bike. He said, it's a $5,000 bike now.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that's really a struggle for me is, and I preach this to our Patreon guys, like, look, you don't have to have customers. You are your best customer. Just whatever you're passionate about in life, I don't care if it's antique, anything. Just go buy what you like, clean it, be your best customer. That's what I did.
Yeah.
I cleaned my stuff and sold it for more than everybody else got. And
so that's where I think that I would guess the vast majority of the people, the machines that we've sold, are people that are using it to make money off of.
They are.
And then there's a few that just early adopters want to get the machine, but I think almost everybody is going to use it for some. Maybe they're not charging a per hour service, but like Jamie has it in at Dundon.
Right. There's an association.
Right. So he's by proxy going to make some money off of it. I don't know if he's going to charge for the use of it, but he'll be able to charge more for his whatever service, whatever he's doing, an engine out service or something like that, and show just make it top of the line, top class work, if you will.
Yeah, and I want to. I mean, I'll make
stay on
comment.
The mic. You're getting.
Yeah. Dry ice suppliers. If you know of, or you work at a dry ice supplier and you want to support our cause, please reach out to us, dricenation.com, because I've got like Wes Smith, that's in Mississippi bought a.
Mm-hmm.
He's a collector.
Mm-hmm.
Bought his Evo, and I cannot find any supplier that will give him less than 500 pounds. He didn't want 500 pounds.
Yeah.
And so, that's the single person in the U.S. in 2.5 years that I still can't. I can get him 500 pounds.
Yeah, but I think that even in a case where I'm inclined, same thing here, even where I don't think I need 500. I know I don't need 500 pounds, but I think that at this point I'd rather have that, and it's not as much money. I understand $3,000 is a lot of money. Is my math right on that? I want to get this math. Or people have been yelling at me because I'm thinking 10 steps ahead.
You're right.
So $250 times 12 months, yeah, $3,000.
Yeah, I'm $50,000 a year on dries right now.
right. So $3,000 a year for like the pure awesome. Now I'm an enthusiast. I'm not charging anybody. There's no reason for me to have this.
Right.
I would still have this even if I wasn't Obsessed Garage. I think I would still want it. I probably wouldn't have it yet. But I would want it if I'd heard about it, learned about it, if I saw somebody do it, or if I had one of my cars done, I would want to get a machine, and I would consider saying, well, I spend way more than $3,000 a year on a bunch of other random crap, even though I'm going to waste a good percentage of that ice because it's going to sublimate. I still want to have it on tap when I need it. Yeah. And so that 500 pounds is going to be on tap, say 2.5 weeks out of every 4 of a month.
A couple weeks, yeah.
Yeah, and
if you keep it in air conditioning, probably 2.5 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, so I got a couple weeks worth of use. So 50% of the time, I'll plan my use around it. There will be many times where I wasn't planning to use it, and I used it anyway. Like my hat had some sticky stuff on it the other day. I'm like, man, I wish I had my
Yeah, that's exactly what we would do.
Little goofy things like that, or you buy something and you got some stickers all over it, and you want to just blast it off.
It's a little weird because you when you have it at your disposal, you'd be shocked how often you use it and what you do with it, and then of course I'm always pushing the envelope. Look, hey, let me see that. I got to try everything I possibly can, and they're not all successes, but they.
The other thing I think is going to be motivating to me is that I know I have more ice than I need.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna because the few times you brought it to me, I've been like rationing it, and then I wasted half of it because I never use it because I'm like, oh, I don't want to use it for that. I'm gonna save it for something else, and then then the ice is gone 4 days later. So I'm kind of excited to have it on tap so I can use it all the time.
Well, we're about ready to make ice here, for the benefit of some people like you, and so we're going to be able to deliver that a little more on tap, and that is a program. I will tell you that we've got a group that wants to serve us nationally and roll out into spaces where we could do that. So that's not off the plate. We're definitely looking at having a pelletizer and a 50 to 60 ton plus tank in geographic areas where we have concentration of machines.
So let's back up before we get into making ice. Let's talk about the next step, the next machine that's coming. So for those that do want to do an E36 or a restorative project like one of the many cars that you're sharing, so if you want to do the under the car and restore that, what is that machine that's coming? What is that going to look like? Can you give us a little insight into what's coming? What's it going to cost? What's it going to be? What compressor do I need for that?
Well, so the caveat is, given that ICS R&D listened to me to some degree, the results should be January or February, a machine that will be as or more competitive to any machine that's available in the world in all aspects, and even exceed in many low points, and will be probably 20,000 less than the machine it competes with. So to be specific, $25,000.
So
that's the target price.
So a $25,000 machine. Now you're charging $300 an hour.
Correct.
And that machine is going to require how big of a compressor?
All right. So this is interesting. So I have to fall in the sword a little bit. So currently ICS sells a 310S Plus, which I had, and I sold it to Tommy.
And that's how much that machine? That's
that
like
machine's $20,000.
Okay.
So what I feel foolish about is it was in my shop for a month and a half, and we were moving and put the booth up, we had all these things going on. I missed the point that machine has a range of 16 PSI on the low side, which is 4 psi less than the machine I currently use,
Mm-hmm.
which is 25% less. And there are times when I don't want 20 psi.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. But here's where I really missed it. The current machine I use goes up to 130 psi.
Okay.
Well, the 310S Plus and the machine coming are going to be 232 psi.
Okay.
So why is that relative? Well, sometimes you're going to have a desire to want to strip something off significant.
Okay.
That machine at 3 millimeter pellets, 200 plus psi, it's going to be a coating and paint stripper.
So
Imagine you're a Porsche racer.
is there a multiplier in the machine? So can I feed the machine 150 psi? Because most compressors are going to be tapped out, right?
So that's what I was going to say. So the compressor that I have, had I been smart enough to know this, I would have ordered my $40,000 40 horse system.
Mm-hmm.
I would have chosen the 216 psi 40 horse compressor. So
Okay.
when you buy a compressor,
Mm-hmm.
you can choose the psi, the
Right.
high side.
Right.
And so I chose I think it was 140. They didn't have any, so they just accidentally gave me a 175
Okay.
for free.
Mm-hmm.
If I'd known what I had in my
So
warehouse,
there, there is no multiplication. You're going to
you
get
choose.
the pressure out of the gun is going to be directly proportional to the pressure that your compressor can create.
Correct. And the CFM accordingly. So
Sure.
So
More pressure, less flow. So then you need a bigger, bigger
be.
motor.
the point is, if you're never going to strip Porsche undercoating or want to strip paint, then you don't need that.
Yeah.
The machine's capable,
Mm-hmm.
and if you wanted to, you could rent a compressor to add to. But the point of all that is very simply this: the new machine is going to be more versatile than anything that I've used before.
So the 310, the 310S is the current model. That's $20,000 that
Right.
you had one demoed, but weren't
And
really using it.
I've sold a couple. Yeah.
So that machine, that one does not allow you to change the pellet size, right? You get
It does. So the current machine I use has 28 choices,
okay.
which is a little excessive.
The Evo has none.
Correct.
You pull the button and it shoots big and small pellets out.
Combined, yes.
Right, and you can't.
There's no adjustment.
You can adjust the pressure.
And the volume, but not the size.
Got it. Okay.
So the 310S currently has the ability to shoot the 3 millimeter pellets
Okay.
or hit one button. They call the scrambler.
Mm-hmm.
You hit the scrambler button, and then it shoots the same stream that you would get with the Evo. So
Okay.
1.5 millimeter size pellets and down, all in the same spray.
Gotcha. Okay.
So right now, you can choose with the 310S.
You have two settings.
You
Right.
have two settings.
You
The
have
next
basically an
machine-
infinite setting that's
Right.
infinitely adjustable on its own, or you have the ability to dial it
Full.
up to big ones. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the new machine will have multiple settings.
Okay. And so the Evo's pressure output, what is that rated at? I didn't even know this was
What's
a thing.
110 is, if you watch the gauge, it'll go up to 110.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you got to remember, that's a two hose system,
Mm-hmm.
like a siphon, sandblaster would be, two hoses going up,
Mm-hmm.
and it siphons the material right at the gun. The single hose system, which is what I use now, and what the 310S is,
Mhm.
and what the new machine will be, they have more velocity. That's the key.
So now the new machine is going to be $5,000 more than the
Yep.
old machine,
More settings.
and that's going to be called what? We don't know yet.
Yeah.
You know, but you're not telling me. Okay, so I'll skip over that. So that machine is going to have what kind of adjustability? So it's going to have high pressure output.
Yes, 16 lower than what I use now, and higher than I use now. So
Okay.
so it'll cover that gamut.
Mm-hmm.
It'll have, let's just say, it'll have enough choices.
But you have many different settings where you better
Correct.
choose the pellet size depending on what you're working on.
And what I don't know yet is the two complaints that I have about the 310S.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot stand the battery-powered light.
Okay.
I can't stand it. It's fine when you're working from the top side. You don't even need a light.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get underneath the car, can't stand it.
Yeah. No.
So that's something I've requested and asked for, is a electricity powered light
good. Okay.
and a bigger hopper. It doesn't have a big enough hopper.
Got it. So that new machine, you're thinking February, March, something like that.
For sure.
So now that machine, your compressor is how much? Another 25, 30 to make that work?
So my Taj Mahal system is installed with electrician and plumbing is 40 grand.
Okay. So you're 65. Remember, we've been talking 100.
Yeah.
So we're talking 65, but even better than our $100,000 system, the original system that we saw you do in my E36. So you're doing a rotary screw, 40 horse, 3-phase, monster.
The coolest new desiccant dryer that should land tomorrow at my place, and so.
So is that the desiccant you've been telling me about that would work for like my 5-horse as well? So that could work all systems. So I guess it can't hurt if I have a refrigerated dryer and a desiccant dryer at the same time. I could run them both, right?
Yep.
And air conditioning in the building, so I'm not going to get plumes.
Mm-mm.
And that's the big thing. Okay, so now on to ice making. So does ice making have anything to do with any of these machines? It's a different machine,
completely
right?
different machine, and they're across the board. Unless you go to China, they're expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Chinese versions, I would question the durability.
Sure,
but really, it's surprisingly simple. The principle is simple. When you release liquid CO2 into ambient, non-pressurized space, it turns to a solid.
And then this just chops it up.
It doesn't actually. It's like a square chamber. When the liquid comes in, it's ambient pressure, so it turns to solid dry ice. And there's a ram.
And pushes it through like a pasta maker.
Just like a pasta maker or Play-Doh. Same thing. Yeah.
So what about that? I keep hearing people asking about the Karcher.
Yeah.
Karcher.
Yeah.
That is Kaecher. That does both. What's the story? Have you seen that machine?
Yeah.
Have you touched?
So I haven't touched it. I know the machine. The downside of that, I've got a couple friends locally that are into real technical machineries and measurement equipment, and they have a CO2 tank in their office, and they just do very light little, like. And the problem with the Karcher system is, it's very challenged by the size of the particle. Okay. It's like all dust.
Okay.
So you just lost everything over 0.3, 0.4 particle size, which is extraordinarily minimal effectiveness.
What is that machine's claim to? Like, what do they mainly use it for? Is it like graffiti removal or something? I mean, what is it?
I do not believe that is viable in the marketplace. It's been tried for 20 years.
Yeah.
The problem is you can't put enough CO2 on the machine with it to last more than a few minutes. It's like, remember I bought I rented the scuba tanks?
Yeah.
Oh, can you power an Evo with a scuba tank? I proved that you can, but guess what? It only lasts for 3 minutes.
Oh God, yeah. So you're gonna need,
you can't
500.
And if you've ever moved oxygen acetylene tanks around,
yeah,
they're no fun.
Yeah,
that's the weight that you're managing. I'm not interested in that, and it's not here in the U.S.
Right. Yeah, I just see people talking about that because it's an all-in-one. Be like, well, this could solve all our problems. It could be a detailing machine, makes its own ice.
Yeah,
good to go. Yeah, but I kind of assumed
basically think about it this way: the dry ice makers, the pelletizers, where the liquid CO2 comes out into the chamber, that's basically the Karcher gun.
Yeah, got it.
So think about, you don't have any substance.
Here's a question from Subi Dude. He says, "Hi, Dryceman and Matt. How is dry ice on wood?"
I've done it. So hardwood, very exciting and fun. I'm a wood guy. I've had wood boats all my life. I've had 2 log homes. I blasted my entire log home here in Florida with corn cob husks.
Yeah.
To strip it. So I know wood really well. So right out of the gate. In fact, there's a gentleman in Chicago that brought over an antique piece of furniture. He said, "Look, he's the guy that brought AMG to the U.S." All right. So he's a car guy. So he in the 80s.
Right.
And fun fact, guess who his sales manager was?
You.
No.
Oh.
The guy that owns WeatherTech.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So he was a sales manager for AMG in the 80s.
Okay.
So he's a car guy too. So anyway, he brings this table over and he said, "Look, the people today, the designers, they don't like the dark stained furniture pieces. They want it light and raw. They don't even want to finish. Natural.
Yeah. Yep, natural and distressed and weathered.
And so we got this intricate carvings, and it just beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just blasted
Obviously,
it off
common
and clean.
sense. You got to apply common sense. But softwoods, no, you have the same problem you have with a pressure washer.
Because he says he works for Robert Mondavi, and at the winery they have a giant sandblaster that they use on wine barrels to clean them.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, I can't help to notice similar techniques to what dry ice would do.
Yeah.
And so he could essentially accomplish the same task without all the mess. Right?
Oh. Well, you have the mess of the stuff you're taking off, but you don't have the sand.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, the whole outside of my house was corn husks for 2 years.
Here's a good question. Fender Skirt 66 says, can you safely dry ice painted and chrome plated surfaces?
Yes. Yeah, so we recently sold a 68 KR GT500 Shelby Mustang on Bring a Trailer that, I mean,
lots of chrome on that, right?
Chrome and contour quality. I like the highest level of finish on the paint. Like you can't see any texture. It's one of those wet sand, wet sand buff one. And I actually demoed an Evo customer. I demoed the Evo on that car because all the scoops, that those cars had, and all the intricate, just spray the whole exterior of the car. There was a well-known YouTube detailer that commented on a well-known YouTube channel that his guy spent hours with brushes doing the fine dust removal on a Porsche.
Right.
That's like 15 minutes for me.
Yeah. Knock it. But chrome, it doesn't damage or hurt.
It's not abrasive. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Can dry ice be used to remove mold from surfaces without sending spores everywhere?
No.
Yeah, it's going to go into the air, right? It's going to go all over the place.
Yeah, you better have a respirator on. You better have some stuff on.
Yeah, because, I mean, the stuff goes somewhere. It doesn't vaporize.
So look,
the CO2 does, but the dirt doesn't.
I tell everybody, you think about this, it's really quite simple. Cleaning in any manner is just moving dirt from one place to another.
Right.
That's all. I don't care what form of cleaning you're talking about, whether it's a shower, a car wash, or washing your house, or concrete, or you're moving the dirt. If there's a piece of dirt on the desk, you're going, oh, you moved it from the desk, wiped it on my pants. You're just moving dirt. So yeah, when you clean the dirt off the car, it's going to atomize, which we now have a booth that sucks all that stuff in, filters the air, and then it falls on the floor. And we just put a huge drop cloth down to catch the heavy stuff, and we actually give it to the customers. Here's the dirt we took off your car.
So I was talking to Rex, and he was saying about you guys have been managing the time you're using the booth because of CO2 levels in the building.
Yeah.
Is that a thing?
It's a thing for sure. Yeah.
So the next step would be to ventilate out the roof or something like that, or to capture the CO2.
It's actually, I found out because I called some of the CO2 guys. I said, look, I'm struggling with how this should work. And the guy's like, really simple and easy. CO2 is heavier than air. So you don't want to vent out the roof. You want to vent at the floor level.
Okay.
So we're actually engineering and playing around with raising the door, varying heights, and then having a few fans to pull right off the floor outside. So we'll lose some AC. Yeah. And by the way, we just got our first build today of the 8,000 square foot space, and I keep it at 75 when I'm working in there, which is a little extreme. What's your bill here?
It's like 400.
Yeah, so $750.
Yeah, that's about what this is, but I keep it at 73 in here.
Yeah,
and yeah, it's like 300 for one side and 400 for the other, something like that.
Yeah. So I was pleasantly surprised by that. It's just a cost that we have to attribute. It's something we have to do. So
let's talk a little bit about our business model, because we were always interested in that and why we're doing this. I think it's pretty freaking simple. Yeah. But let's cue people into how we're doing this. So we're partners on this deal. Yep. We're 50-50 partners on this deal. I have the distribution model. You have the training platform. You're developing the training platform, and which makes sense that would be the product development platform as well.
Yep.
And then so I'm doing the marketing and the distribution. You're doing the technical support, the training, and the detail of what machines are we going to purchase.
Right.
And then the model is we buy the machine as cheap as we can get it from them, and then we mark it up and we sell it.
Yeah, and well, the good news is the next machines, the price point of the Evo put us in this little trick bag that we talked about earlier. The beauty is when we get to this is the part I love, we get to the new machine, and frankly, this Re10S, if someone really wanted one now, if you bought an Evo from us, well, you're going to get preference on the new machine because it's going to be in high demand.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to serve those people that bought our Evo from us first. And we're going to charge the same price as every distributor that ICS has in the world. So we're not going to have that disparity between the two. Our challenge was I can't provide the support that I knew I would need in a new space without justifying the profit margin. And we've been criticized for that, but what I'm saying is we're not going to have that issue on the bigger machines because there's a big enough margin for us to do that same thing.
Right, at a lower margin percentage, there's more dollars involved.
Correct.
So the the profitability is not quite as high, but you have more dollars to help pay for the infrastructure that you're building.
Right.
So the training part is largely driven through Patreon.
It is, yeah. And it's really, we've gotten to the point, my time in the educational process and just trying to help people get their heads around what's possible for them in their particular case is so short now that we're really moving to a very strict consulting. Your first hour consulting with me is X.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you want to join Patreon, you have carte blanche access to the community. And that's, like, if I can compliment Randy Nonnenberg from Bring a Trailer on anything, I applaud him for building a community first before he launched the auction. And so that's the model we have. We have 55 guys, and the power of their heads headed in the same direction.
You want me to come on there and talk to those guys about anything one of these days?
Yeah, we get 20 guys on a call.
Yeah. So I'm not a part of the training at all. So
Right.
we're not.
Don't call Matt.
So Scott he gets the revenue. He does all the training. So we're not splitting that.
Right.
But the retail stuff is where we're hoping to build the site. So we use our media guys and the website and stuff like that to put the product up. But the plan is to once Scott gets all this vetted, we'll be selling the booth.
Yes.
We'll be selling the tools. We'll be selling a full, like let's say it's $68,922 to do this. This is the setup.
Right.
That we're going to be selling the compressor, the dryer, the piping, the connections. The one thing we won't be selling, I don't think, is installation.
No.
We're going to make videos to show you how you would install it. We'll go pick a few garages. Yeah. How do you teach your contractor how to do it?
Right.
And so the plan, this is going to take us years to do this. And then every time we develop, I'm assuming we're going to develop different nozzles and tips and different parts and pieces, as well as training techniques. Things where people learn about different types of materials. And
so think about this on that vein. When does a car company come out with official advice on how to modify their car to get more performance?
Well, never.
Never.
Right.
So guess what? You and I are distributors for a product. I can tell you that our product is being modified successfully.
Mm. Yeah, that's good.
It is. And so we get to take that information, just like any manufacturer would, and say, oh, maybe we should have thought of doing this.
Right.
And so as my whole deal is 40 years in the business is I want to take care of the people that take care of us. And so when someone joins Patreon, and I've had a lot of people like, oh my gosh, $500 a month. What do I get for that? Well, you get the only place in the world that knows how to do this and will tell you. It's not that we're the only people that know how to do it. Because we're the only ones that'll show you. And if I asked $5,000 a month, it would be worth it. But I'm trying to lower the bar of entry. So the horsepower of all of our Patreons working together, marketing together, and building a brand, we're not aware of any other brand that has more than one location that are cleaning cars. And Dryce has 20 so far.
So let's talk a little bit about, this is a good question from MX304, dry ice versus vapor honing.
Yes.
Vapor honing is another similar. It feels similar in the vein of it's a newer thing that's become popularized.
I love it. I'm going to have one.
What is it?
Yeah, so vapor honing is like your old cabinet sandblaster, but leveraging liquid or water or fluid to make the process that much more complete and the finished results better. The problem with vapor honing as it relates to what we do is it requires you to take the item off the car and disassemble it to its final piece.
Because you got to get rubber and gaskets and seals and all that stuff off of the part, and you see the results. And some things, that's what needs to be done.
Yes.
Especially if you're doing like a full engine rebuild or something, it would make sense.
Like aluminum valve covers, I cannot with a dry ice machine make those look as good as a vapor honing machine. No way. I can make them look better, but they're not going to be.
So doing both.
Yeah, I'm going to have one of those.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'll come borrow from you.
Yeah, you can. and I will commit. You know, I'm 40 years with my wife, so I got to be careful how I commit to this. But so long as I'm able to, and I'm breathing, I'm going to have a laser gun, one of those laser machines. I'm going to have one of those. I don't know when.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm talking about that crazy big gun that shoots a laser and removes rust off of.
Oh, I don't know anything about that.
The sad part is it's expensive, so it's going to take a while for that. We'll do that.
So, I mean, just think about that. If you're getting into vapor honing, you got to have some real mechanical skills, right? To take things apart, put it back together. And like Tommy has a vapor honing where they're doing these GTR restorations.
Yep.
Lots of guys. I know lots of guys in the BMW community that are getting into that, so that they're restoring E36s or E30s and stuff like that. Makes a lot of sense. You take everything apart, you vapor hone it, you repaint what needs to be painted, and you kind of restore things from start to finish. But for those of us like me who are posers, I'm not taking anything apart. I want to keep it all together and I want my zinc bolts to look zinc without ever taking the bolt out.
Well, that's the part. I have a friend that started the Bloomington Gold show for Corvettes years and years ago, and he's a very, very intelligent guy. And he said, "Look, we call those witness marks. You start taking bolts and parts off, and if you're not careful, you have risk of witness marks. And, when a washer is seated on a factory finish, and you break it loose,
it never goes back to the same spot. Yeah, I don't really care about that. I'm just saying I'm a poser. But I don't think it's an either or. It's a both.
Yeah,
right?
It's like the first car I ever did dry ice was a 240D, and I would love to have done the aluminum valve cover with a vapor honer. That would have been perfect.
So what do they do back in the day? Like I remember my dad dropping off his Edelbrock, whatever, intake manifold, and you drop it off at
bead blasting.
They'd drop it off at DLK, and then DLK would ship it out, and it would come back all all bead blasted.
Yeah. And it didn't look. It's a dry, powdery look versus the vapor honing, which is more slick and glassy. And it depends on what media you put in there. They got various medias that have.
How much are those vapor honing machines?
The cheapest ones are $4 or $5 grand, and they go up to 20, 25, which isn't that bad.
Yeah.
For what you can do with it.
Then you need a big compressor.
Yeah.
And then you need the media. Right, you need to buy this stuff.
Yeah, you can make it a closed system where it loops and filters and then change the stuff out every once in a while. But I think it's a very important part to have if you're. I mean, it just depends on your circumstance. I definitely want to have one because I think there's many times when I could just take something to the next level with a little bit of energy. It's like what we did with the OSFO and exhaust. The first 10 cars I didn't know about OSFO and the exhaust systems. And then once I actually did it, I had the posers you talked about, that were following us and doing dry ice, literally told friends of friends, I just don't understand why my dry ice machine won't make the exhaust systems look like Scott's. It's like, you're not a part of the group.
Yeah, you need steel wool and OSFO.
Yeah,
which is phosphoric acid, in a certain dilution.
And then just a slight little knowledge that if you don't wipe it off, it's not going to look right.
Yeah, because it keeps eating and there's a powder. Yeah. So the future of dry ice would look like what?
So it's not. I think the biggest challenge that we've had so far in the educational process is There's a lot of misinformation because when you use dry ice in its worst way, it looks impressive on video.
Mm-hmm.
And that has created some problems for us in people's perception. The future of dry ice is going to be directly related to our ability to tell the accurate story on how to do this at the highest level. You don't have to do it at our level.
What's the difference between high level and low level?
So here's how I put it. There's 40,000 body shops in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably only 100 good ones that would paint a Concours quality job, and they're always booked.
But I thought you're telling me that the ice can't mess anything up.
So if you're going to go to a big machine, I call the Evo the caveman machine.
Okay, so
You put it in the hands of anybody. Yeah. If you modify the Evo or any other machine, you just entered into a whole new element of risk.
Okay.
If you get a big machine like the 310S or the next machine or the current big machine that's out there, it's a whole learning curve. You better have guidance or have 6 months on your hand and a lot of your own cars that you're going to screw up like I did to figure out what not to do. So yeah, it's that was the beauty in the Evo coming to you with it is it's the downside is it doesn't have the forcefulness of the big machines, but that's also the upside. So you can put it in the hands of someone that is not going to hurt what they're trying to clean as likely.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure if you concentrated on one spot and it was I'm sure you could mess something up with it, but
correct.
Or freeze it and it cracks.
Yeah, that's like if you have a decal that's got a bubble. Well, if you don't pay attention to that, you're going to freeze it, and then the next particle is going to go through it.
Mm.
So there's a fair amount of common sense that's required, but at the end of the day, the Evo has proven to be pretty resilient for the guerrilla crowd.
So do you think this stuff is going to be like, is every detailer going to have it? Is every body shop, is every dealership? I mean, is this going to be simple enough, or is the compressor always going to be the limiting factor?
No, that's not the limiting factor because most of those locations you just mentioned have compressors already.
Yep.
So I would say this about it, and I made this comment before, an analogy. The cheapest pressure washer 30 years ago was $1,600. And how many people don't have a pressure washer today? Very few.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Car guys especially. I mean, you can go buy a pressure washer for $50. It's not any good.
Yeah, but it wasn't, I'm going to take credit for this. It wasn't really much of a thing even 3-4 years ago. Pressure washing your car was...
Well, there wasn't a process. You developed a process.
Yeah, it just wasn't, I mean, people would have it or they'd be using their gas or whatever because electric was just not good enough. And some detailers were using it, or some like big detailing shops. But in general, washing cars with a pressure washer was not a thing. We were all using garden hoses, and then we started using like a Gilmore Foam Master to foam it. Mm-hmm. And then the next step was me discovering Krenzla, and then started making videos, and it's really taken off from there. And now, you're right, most car guys, even I see it. It's funny. I noticed my neighbor who has a Tesla. Teslas are notorious for getting regular people. Now they've become a car person.
Yeah.
They never cared about their Jeep Cherokee or whatever they had, their utility.
Honda.
Now they have an even more utilitarian, nerd box. And now they start washing. So they go out, and what do? They get a Sunjoe pressure washer. So I saw him out with his Sunjoe was like laying on its side because you could tell the hose is too short. He pulled it over, and it took me everything in my power not to pull over and say, "Hey, can I help you out with that?" But
you're asking me, is that coming?
Everybody has it.
Yeah,
Are we headed to that point? Do you think we'll get there where everybody has a dry ice machine?
All right, so no, but I will say one of the things I get hammered on pretty hard on social media is the carbon effect, the CO2 and the misconception about where that comes from. And if I get to the end of the rope with someone, in person, I don't engage negatively online because it's worthless time, and I'm taken away from people that are positive supporters. But in person, I'll just say, look, have you ever had a soda? Because you don't seem too worried about the carbonated soda.
Right.
Because every restaurant's got CO2 container right outside the back.
Right.
And they're doing that. So I do not believe that it will be in every home, but I do believe there will be a fleet of portable, mobile people. You won't, no different than when the first guy walked into my dealership in Iowa and said, "Hey, you should have a website."
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do I need that for? I've been working in the car business for years. I don't know, a website. And then, so everybody had that first reaction. If you canvassed every single person in business and said, when someone first offered you an opportunity to be on the internet, what did you say? I guarantee you they said no.
Yeah, what is that? That's a waste of time.
Yeah, and now you can't.
MySpace, get out of here. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, so car
and then
dealers,
Dane Cook is making millions, because
Yeah.
he's got, a million followers on it.
So to answer your question, I think businesses will definitely, in 5 to 10 years, because as fast as we are at developing technology, we're not that fast as a human race in changing our culture.
There's some lady in here, Deborah Ailes.
Uh-oh.
Ailes. Deborah
What criticism
Ailes.
about the way I'm holding
She
my
says,
head?
"What?" with 57 question marks. Then what do I get? I don't know what were we talking about.
What do I get?
Uh,
So Deborah's tombstone,
mhm.
she's already decided what she wants on it.
Okay.
What's my cut? Because she's heard me countless times on the phone help people, and she's like, what do we get out of that? It's like, well, we got goodwill.
There's another question. This is a good one. He hasn't, the same guy, Wish the Morrow, said, I haven't heard him speak to if there are any issues that happen from heat cycling, because
well, we use that to our favor. Actually, it's. I'm glad they brought it up. So in many cases, and on your car, people might have noticed it, but if something's really stubborn, we'll take a shot at it,
mm-hmm.
move away, let it cycle, come back.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that 2 or 3 times, it's more effective than if you just stay on it, which is counter to the world of pressure washing and virtually everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason that's so difficult as a trainer is the intuitive nature is just to stay on it until it's gone. And you have to use the cycle. If you live up north, you know why the roads have cracks in them.
They develop speed bumps, right? You're
They're
driving on a
terrible.
highway and you have these humps where the water gets in, forms a crack, or a crack happens, the water gets in, makes the crack bigger.
It's freezing, it's warm, it's cold, it's warm, it's on and off. And so we use that to our favor. And a lot of people get a little nervous about 109 negative, like, oh my gosh, you're ruining the metallurgy, Well, the brevity of the material on the surface is so quick. It doesn't, unless you're not thinking about what you're doing, you just,
Now, another, going back to our original question was, let's see, it says, what about, will Harbor Freight have something like this someday where it's an affordable machine that you could have?
So look at it this way. Will an iPhone 3 be worth $20 when it first came out? That's the same question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's worth $20 now because nobody wants it. So, not being a smart aleck, but I mean, until the demand creates a selling opportunity for a manufacturer to streamline the production, these machines are all built by hand. They're all made by hand because you can't streamline and bring robotics into the manufacturing process to get that cost down. So Harbor Freight will probably have $1,000 dry ice cleaners someday.
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do between now and then? Why would you buy one for $1,000 in 10 years if you can buy one now for $10,000?
Well, that would be if you're just consumer, just using it around the house, right? Yeah.
So you're using it on your cars or your motorcycle, but if you're charging $150 an hour as a business to do something that cannot be done in another way, the consumer has the same upside opportunity. You might not be charging yourself. I charge myself when I clean a car for my own dealership. I charge myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a customer that's bringing a BMW in that's from the local BMW chapter, and he said, I've tried to do this. I've spent hours. Well, I think what's important in that question is, what is your time worth? and how much time does this save? If you don't know those two answers, then you can't process this.
It's funny. He says the day that Harbor Freight makes this is the day his support you pay for will go away. I would argue no, because there will always be people who don't want a Harbor Freight machine. You know, the people who buy Harbor Freight level products have no concept of me.
Yeah,
or you.
No.
Because they've never been there. They only know what they know. Yeah. And we were probably all a Harbor Freight person at some point. Harbor Freight didn't exist when we were at that level. But Harbor Freight doesn't. I don't think it cannibalizes anything in the professional grade. It doesn't. None of that goes away because people will. First of all, there's a certain demographic of people that want to honor the source. They want to support where they found the information.
Yeah, and I don't struggle with that because I've got 40 years. I'm 59 now, and I got 40 years of serving people and having them appreciate that.
Yeah.
And participate in what I do.
And I don't
need to convince those that don't want to.
Right, you don't need everybody.
I don't.
And shoot, like in wealth management, I had 100 clients.
Right.
That was the target. You only want 100.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you could do, if we sell 100 dry ice machines, it's a pretty good business.
So we came down here in 92 and bought a bunch of boats from Hurricane Andrew from Iowa. That's how we ended up in Florida. So by 2004, the insurance companies got wise to what we were doing. They said, hey, will you just sell our boats for us? Mm-hmm. So, okay, sure. So we staged 4 different auctions, and we charged $500 to get in the gate. So we had 2 demographics of people that showed up at the auction. One is guys doing calisthenics and antics outside the gate, swearing and going off because he wasn't paying $500 to get into this auction. It's not fair. I just drove 3 hours. You got to let me in. And then the guy in the gate is like, I wish you were charging $1,000.
Right.
And so I want to serve the people that want to be served.
Yeah.
I don't want to take away, like if I'm serving you and someone over here is just going off on me, if I spend any time on them, it's a disservice to you.
Yeah.
I serve you.
Yeah, that's I think the thesis of most successful businesses, Apple. Hey, we're going to make what we make. We're going to focus on design, and we want it to be fast, and we want it to be of high quality. But we're going to focus on our customers, and they have more haters than they have customers. They have purchasers, but then they have people like me.
But they have enough lovers.
Yeah, that's all you need. And so that was my thing with Obsessed Garage. I'm like, I don't really want to sell to everybody.
Yeah.
I want to sell to now. In the beginning, I just was selling to me. And I realized, well, there aren't a lot of me's, so I probably need to make some progressive steps here.
Yeah.
But we're selling to a certain demographic of people. People that are bought into the same ideologies of we want to pursue functional excellence.
Well, it's interesting. Our currently 55 Patreons don't want anybody else to join, right? But what's interesting is when someone does join, they're all in. They're behind them. They're supporting them. They're immediately one of them.
Well, they can relate.
They can, yeah.
So the dry ice thing from a business perspective, the idea is that you're hopefully developing a platform and a solution set that then in turn, well, one, you're interested in it. Right, so that's the
I'm
key.
passionate about it. Yeah.
So you were playing with it even when you weren't making any money doing it. You're spending money on it.
Right.
And then I think the superpower of the world is then you figure out then how to make it a viable business if it's something you're interested in.
Well, we're not figuring that out. We've done that.
Right.
We've got of the 20 Patreons that are functioning today, cleaning cars, there's 10 of them that are just smiling because they doubled. I mean, they just put their money on the table and went in and did it, and now the phone's ringing. And our presentations are getting a lot of attraction, and we're sending all those leads through our website, Dryce Nation. So you go to Dryce Nation and you go down a quarter page and there's the map and there's all our people.
Yeah.
And so now as more and more people find out that this is an opportunity for them and their cars, we funnel those leads to those people. And it's not about, hey, I think this might work. It did work, and it is working. And for people that want to, I get it. It's not cheap.
It's funny. I was doing a wash and talk the other day on the Tesla, and something dawned on me. I was thinking, I'm always tweaking. I wanted to tweak the suspension on the Model 3 because it's so heavy, it's so different. And we dialed in factory camber, and then I'm going around a turn, and it just feels like it needs more camber. It's like rolling over on the sidewalk because how heavy it is.
That's going to hurt your score, by the way.
Yeah, right. My score is toast. So, I want to stick it to people that were giving me a hard time in the video, because if we go to my score, just to cue you in here, you get if you submitted to be allowed for full self-driving, you get a safety score. Mine's 95. But my 92? one red spot, and somebody in the video says, well, I don't even know why you're complaining. You're only going 45 miles an hour around a turn. It says my aggressive turning is in the red, and that's why I'm a not safe driver.
Mine's hard braking.
Right. So anyway, where was I going with that? So anyway, I would like to tweak the suspension.
Yeah.
Well, then I got to get it realigned.
Right.
There's nowhere to go. 95% have the old Hunter machines that clamp the front of your wheel.
Right.
They don't clamp the tire; they clamp the wheel.
A divot, yeah.
And they make a divot in your wheel, and I hate that.
Yeah.
Anybody close, that's what they have. They don't have the new ones where it clamps the tire and sits on the face of the wheel.
Constantly see that when we're dry ice cleaning cars.
Yeah.
All those divots on the wheel.
Oh, it's horrible.
Drives me nuts.
And so I started brainstorming. I said, well, I'd really like to have an alignment rack.
Yeah.
The problem is I don't have anywhere to put it. Alignment rack's $60,000. That's for the new Hunter full-on deal, $60,000. A lot of money. But, I could make content. I could justify it. Problem is, I don't know where to put it.
Where? Yeah.
So then I start thinking, well, maybe I could just, like Rex's place up the street here. They have it's like $900 a month.
Commandeer one of those spots.
Rent a little 1,200 square foot facility, put an alignment rack. Then I could move my mounting and balancing machine in there too. Yeah. I could put it all there, and then it costs me $10,000 a year to have my $100,000 equipment just for the so that way I could tweak the suspension whenever I want. Now, granted, that's not a good justification.
That's extreme, but I want to. I talk to my guys on their Zoom calls every week. We're not moving into a place in our society and culture where people want to work harder.
Right.
We're going the other direction. And so when you provide a service or you're executing something that you can't find anyone else to do it your way, guess who comes knocking on your door? Everybody.
So I start thinking like a businessman instead of just a consumer. And where I'm going with this is the whole idea of dry ice and all that stuff. But so then I started thinking, well, then I could just hire somebody, and then the cool thing, I want a video every time I do an alignment, so I could video it the way I want, with my guy, and I could teach him how to tell us how he's doing it and really make it great, and then I could start selling Hunter machines. Because now I'm the resource for them, so I should get credit for that. It'll take some convincing because they're doing the old school regional sales model, door-to-door sales model. And then I started thinking, well, it'd be awesome to provide a service where I do, wheel and tire mounting, balancing, coating, dry ice cleaning, the whole process. And that would cost, it'd probably cost like, $500 or maybe like $750 to do a set of wheels. And then I get the peanut gallery saying, no way, no one would do that, no one would want that. Now, I urge anybody to think about this. This is the customer, anybody that's ever done this. So first you get your new wheels, show up, and you get your new tires. Right? Now I got to figure out who's going to mount and balance it. And how are they not going to screw up these new wheels and tires that I just got? And so then I got to go find a place. And so let's say I finally got a guy. So then I'm going to spend, $250. I'm going to palm the guy a hundo, so it's $350 to get him mounted and balanced, because they're always going to charge me top dollar, because I don't want to argue with them, because I argue with them, they're going to put their cheapest guy on it. I want the store manager. I want to palm them a hundo. I want them to charge me top dollar, so that way they'll take their time and they'll want to see me come back. because I'm greasing the wheels for that.
Right.
Then I take it down to Billy at Presidential, and I'm going to have him coat the wheels, right? And so Billy charges, say, $400 to coat a set of wheels. He's got materials, he's got all that stuff. You got to coat them. And then I gotta go, and let's say I don't have a jack or a lift, then I gotta go find somewhere to go put them on. Maybe I can convince Billy to put them on for me. But I've got 3 or 4 different places I gotta go to. I've got to then, I've a lot of labor that I've got to do. And if you've ever done that process, and then if you wanted your wheels OG spec with the tires denibbed and all that stuff, I'd pay $750 every day of the week. Especially if I'm doing some HREs or some BBSs or something like that cost me a bunch of money, and I'd pay someone to do that. And so then I have the peanut gallery saying no one would want to do that. These are the Harbor Freight people. There's nothing wrong with Harbor Freight. There's nothing wrong with doing it yourself. But I would pose that there are many, many people, there's a pretty decent-sized audience that would want to pay somebody who does it all day, who's an expert, who's been vetted by a crazy person,
right,
me, to then align, coat, set up your wheels and tires, install them, and you show up and your car's perfect.
Look, it's about confidence. You know, of all the machines that we've sold and the people that have joined us on Patreon, I can put on less than one hand the people that don't have confidence in you or me. It's all the people that have bought machines are either people that believe in you and trust you, or they've known me for 10, 20. I mean, I literally had one of my members from the list say, he was trying to put him on the fast track. Like, do you want to talk about this for 3 hours, or you want me? Like, after about 5 minutes, he goes, "Oh, just expletive. Just where do I buy it? Just I don't even want to think about it. Just yes, I'll do it." And but that lands heavy on me. If somebody put their trust in me that this is going to serve their purpose, like, I'm all in.
Well, how much of your life do you spend looking for those people in areas that you don't have an interest where you're trying to hire somebody? Like, I'm looking for that all the time. Now, you end up doing it yourself most of the time because it's hard to find.
That is a quintessential problem. But I think what you just expressed is, the peanut gallery saying no one will pay for that. But the reality is, you can't find that.
It doesn't exist.
And it's even less now.
Right.
It's way less now.
And so now you figure out a way to justify the Hunter rack that I really just want because I want it, because it's it's a frivolous thing.
I have a scissor lift. I have a forklift. I have a Dryceman machine. I've figured out how to justify those by making a business around it.
Right. The superpower is then figuring out how to not just waste the money on that, but to then turn it into something, turn it into an asset, if you will. Correct. And it's a roundabout. It's a long tail to figure out what's the how do you make that an asset?
What doesn't fit? Yeah.
How does that become an asset? And is it an asset? And I guess the aspirational goal would be to just have sell some big giant business or something, and then you never have to turn anything into profit because you've already made your money.
So I told you the Alaskan fisherman story, right?
No, probably not.
The guy does a big business like that, sells it, billions of dollars. He's like, I'm gonna take some time off, so he goes to Alaska, goes fishing. So the first day he walks out there, he buys a bunch of stuff. He walks out into the dock and he's trying to catch fish, and he get nothing. But there's a native Alaskan that's just pulling them in one after another. And he's like, wow, hey, with my business acumen and my management skills, your ability to fish and how well you do that, we could make a heck of a business out of this. And the fisherman looks at him and says, and then what would we do? He's already doing what he loves.
Yeah.
You're the guy. So, it's just like, I've had people say to me, what are you doing underneath those cars? I'm like, I love inventing and creating. And to have 50 guys I've got guys that are in their 20s that are breaking away from the gang, if you will. I've got guys that are retiring, that are going into something they've always wanted to do. They're first-time entrepreneurs. I don't consider that a burden. I consider it an obligation to make sure they succeed, but they are. I'm certainly nervous in the first few months when these guys are writing, big checks for equipment.
Yeah.
But when I see them and we're helping, I just like the camaraderie of it all. And you just can't listen to the noise, because it's there's never been something significant happen in the world without a significant group against it.
Well, there's a balance there. I found. I got a message on Instagram earlier today. We just installed something on our website. It's called Route, and I found it. I was buying a mount for my Tesla, a Sea-Sucker mount for my mountain bike.
Yep.
And I have to keep going back because Sea-Sucker hasn't done a good job of telling you what fittings you need for your mountain bike. So I've had to order 3 different things for the fork size, or the whatever the size of the thing that goes through the wheel. And so they had this thing on there. It was pretty cool, and it automatically populated. It was like 98 cents. This is like a $20 item I buy. It was 98 cents. It's called Route. So I click on it. I'm like, what the heck is Route? I don't want that. But then I clicked on it, and it's a service. It's an app that basically, let's say the thing got lost. You just go in the app and you just click, hey, this was lost. And what they do is they go back to the Sea-Sucker website, they buy a new one, and it gets back in process again. So none of this like email and support and
don't know where it is.
Where's the thing? The thing's
where's
not
the tracking number?
Right. All that is self-contained. So you're not like waiting in line for Tommy and his team to answer your question. And so they just go and they buy another thing, which helps me as a business owner.
Yep.
Because
Time.
Normally I'm eating it and then I'm trying to go to UPS to get my money back, and usually it's hard to get your money back.
Right.
And so in this, it saves the customer time, saves me time, and then gets me more sales because I got 2 sales out of 1 if it's lost.
Right.
But granted, if that happens too often, then they're going to cut you loose.
Change. Yeah.
But a customer, somebody says, "Look, I'm a long-time customer, and you shouldn't make it automatic. This is terrible. I don't like the user experience." And then my normal reaction is like, "You're wrong." But I thought about it. I'm like, you're right. I don't like that either. So I walked in and I said, immediately, I'm messaging him. I said, you know what? Let me think about that. I think you might be right. And so then I went back and I talked to Brad. I said, Brad, can we make this where it's not auto on, that it's auto off, but it's prominent where you can very easily click it on if you wanted to? Sure enough, we said, I don't know. Let's go look. He says, I'm pretty sure you can. And we clicked on it. And it said in 3 to 5 business days it'll work. Well, it worked instantly. And so we went and looked. It was a much better user experience. And so the tricky part of this whole thing is that you and I both read comments and you read stuff and you want to say you're wrong and you want to fight because most of it's nonsense. But there's a lot of feedback, and that's why I say it's a healthy balance of, I've learned a lot. And I really should credit more. A lot of the things that I've come to the conclusion have been the noise in the background of all the people yelling at me. Yes, I came up with some plan, but I've probably altered my course a lot more than I even realize because of the noise and the comments that have come from the peanut gallery, if you will, both on the positive and negative side. Because if everyone was just telling you how great you were, you probably were worse off than those people that tell you.
I think that's why that's why Deborah has been with me for 40 years. That's why it works. She tells me where I need improvement, which is regular.
Yeah, there you go. I wish tomorrow I needed boost spacers. That's it. So I ordered the thing because what is that freaking thing in the middle called? It goes through your wheel.
You mean that? Not an axle.
The little twisty thing that you tighten your wheel up, the quick release.
I quit riding bikes after the Schwinn Stingray.
So it's a 15 by 100 millimeter, something like that. And so I bought the regular one. I didn't realize I needed that. And so then I ordered the 15 by 100 millimeter thing, or 15 by 110. And the problem is my Fox fork is too wide.
Yeah.
And so now I do number 3. No, there's a boost. There's a spacer with a little gap. I was in trying to fabricate some washers or something to make it work, and then so that's how I found Route. Yeah, 15 by 110 through axle. That's what it's called. Yeah.
All right. So here's a shot from the dark that you don't know about. So my buddy Oscar Pastrana that owns the Lens Depot. Okay. He's a camera lens rental company. Okay. Out of Oviedo. Yep. Good friends for over 25 years. I had him put the Evo on his site for rent. Mm-hmm. But I'm only going to rent to members of the list. Mm-hmm. People probably don't know what it is, but if you are, members of the Hex. Okay. Mm-hmm. And licensed car or motorcycle dealers or my Patreons. Okay. So that's a caveat. So don't go there and think you're going to rent one if you're not one of those. And we don't know how that's going to play out, but we're going to try it. You can see the rates on there. It's an opportunity to not spend $10,000. It's a $5,000 deposit. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have to, have your card locked up for $5,000 while you have it. And the deal is that if it works and it's successful, our Patreons are a little uncomfortable with it because they don't want a bad reputation being created with dry ice cleaning.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with proper guidance and assistance, I think probably very few of those machines will actually come back. I think they'll end up buying them because that's what's been the process so far. Is the people that have gotten their machines, the first few days are sketchy because it's new. They don't really understand what to do with it, and then it becomes indispensable. And I think that's probably what's going to happen. So
go to lensdepot.com.
That's it.
Lens Depot Orlando.
Go to the categories and go to the bottom, and there's a little Dryce category all the way at the bottom.
You're being all mysterious. How much does it cost?
Look it up.
I don't. Just tell me.
I don't know.
Oh,
I forgot. We did the calculations, and I forgot.
All right. Let me see. Right.
Yeah.
Lens Depot.
See, I want to see what your opinion is of the cost.
Depot rental.
And then go to categories.
Okay.
You gotta click through like you're actually gonna rent it. Just hit the button. And
the Lens Depot Tampa. The Lens Depot Oviedo. Is that the one?
Yeah.
Lensdepot.com Oviedo. Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't want directions. I want the website. Let me see here. Directions. Lens Depot. Website. Got it. Okay. And then I'm gonna go to categories.
All the way to the bottom.
Dryce equipment. Okay.
And then just go through. Just click like you're going to rent it.
Add to cart. So in stock. 10.
All right. Tell me what you think of those prices.
1 to 28. So 3 days 600, 1 week 1,050, 10 days 1,300, 2 weeks 1,680. Now, does it tell you on here somewhere that if you wanted to buy it, you can apply it toward that or something?
No, we're gonna though. So a couple caveats. We're gonna strongly. Well, we have to put those caveats about you have to be a member of the Hex, member of the list.
Yeah.
So those got to go in there, and everything's got to go through me. I'm the deciding factor in whether you get to rent a machine or not.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a real person and I can figure out who you are and you're, we're not playing any games with scammers.
Mm-hmm.
We're just not. So if we get through that process, we're going to strongly recommend, after I hear about what your air compressor is, and if you have a refrigerator dryer and you're working inside, or you have a desk and dryer. If you don't, we're going to probably almost force you to rent a desk and dryer, because that's the number one problem we have.
Mm-hmm.
You guys get the machine. They like me. I did the same thing.
You're like, I can't see anything.
I can't wait. You got to try it, and then it freezes up.
Yeah.
And then it irritates you, and you get mad, and you call me, and then I say, well, that's because you didn't put the desk and dryer with it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a beta. This is beta test. We don't know what's going to happen. But I personally believe that once the machine is in your hands and you're actually using it, it's a game changer. Yeah. And people, what I really want out of it is the discovery of people. That's what we've found with our patrons. All these guys are using the machines in ways that I hadn't thought of,
mm-hmm.
and having success. And so that just adds to the general sense of why it makes sense to use it and buy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's a tough call, because you got to make sure you can get dry ice.
Yeah.
You got to have a compressor. It's not like we're going to rent 50 of those things today. But we'll see. So that's an update.
What else we got going on?
So production, dry ice.
How's your booth doing?
I
So
love the
explain to
booth.
people what the booth is.
Yeah, so the booth is probably one of the biggest things that people complain about when they watch all the videos. My early videos, I got no mask on. I'm like, okay, I get that, especially in today's world. But you got to remember, I came from farming in the 70s and 80s,
Mm-hmm.
and stuck in the silo shoveling, and nobody cared about us back then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
nobody cares about you now either.
They don't.
But they just want to.
They don't. But this is a reason to say something. So anyway, we have ordered, and within a week we'll have our new Darth Vader, the newest 3M Papper, they call it, personal air provider. You got a thing in the back, and it's got headphones and a new microphone inside the helmet. It's supposed to be really killer. So we're going to have that. The booth itself is basically, we call it Dryce in glass, even though it's plastic curtains on the three sides, because someday when I get wealthy enough, I'm going to have glass.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be glass. And so it pulls 16,000 cubic feet per minute. So basically, the 24 by 18 is 18 wide, 24 long, 14 high. That cubic space, the air is exchanged every 20 seconds.
Okay.
So when we go shooting and the dust is flying everywhere, it just goes right to the filter system, through a HEPA filter back in the space, so we're clean air. So we've figured that out. The other thing, the major development is dumb, so simple, but we put a really high quality painter's drop cloth down on the whole space on our first cleaning, because the real heavy stuff just drops to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
So now I don't have a dirty floor. So we put the painter's thing out, we do the worst of it, and then we just flip the corners up and all the stuff piles up in the middle. We got a big old pile of junk.
Mm-hmm.
And then we pick that up and the floor is perfectly clean underneath, and then we do our fine-tuning handwork. So the booth has been, from a lighting standpoint, quality of air, ability to see, and the biggest key improvement, it's the only place like it in the world. It's the only dedicated dry ice cleaning interior space in the world. We call it the Dryce Lab. We control the environment, 40% humidity, and we just don't have all the vapor issues that affect your ability to see.
How much money did you spend on that thing? How much did it cost?
Well, the more critical part about it is how long it took me to put it up carefully. But it's $25,000 to buy,
mm-hmm.
and
where do you buy something like that? Was it a paint booth?
It was a paint booth company
mm-hmm.
that we re-engineered to our spec, and they, of course, like any company that, they make it and they send it to you. It came on a 19-foot long pallet.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that for a minute. In a trailer.
Mm.
So Rex has got a video of me
trying to get it out with the forklift.
Well, I got it out, but I got a 19-foot wide pallet on the forklift, perpendicular, going between the buildings. So
now,
it took us 2.5 weeks. My wife helped me. My fashion designer son, I promise you, this is the only fashion designer in the world that's ever been on a scissor lift and help somebody put up a booth.
What did who makes that? The booth.
This is the 59-year-old memory. I got to think of that. I'm not withholding. I just can't remember.
Did they have the curtain too, or do you buy that?
Different
separate?
company.
Okay.
They coordinated with that company out of Chicago, so I have both those names.
The curtain was at Jeff's?
No,
curtain?
Chicago.
Okay.
Somebody in Chicago. And I was really pretty disappointed because the track.
Or Goff's, whatever it's called.
So think about this a minute. So it's a track, right? It's like the wheels go inside and roll on the inside lip. Well, it's 18 by 24 by 18,
mm-hmm.
all one piece. But it's 4 pieces, but there's joints.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the joint connectors screw in from the top.
Right. So that doesn't make any sense, right?
It's ridiculous. So we had to connoiter the whole thing to go up at the same time. So there were some challenges that we had to work through. The accidental upside is the filters are $1 a piece, so it's $20. We change them out about every 2 months.
Yeah.
And then we got the HEPA filter. The top's more expensive, but that's probably every 4 to 6 months. So what happens is that there are some heavy pieces that get through the filters, but they don't get to the 3-foot diameter, 16,000 CFM fan, so they just lay in the floor. So when we change the filters, we just vacuum that up.
So what people are going to see coming here from us is, on Obsessed Garage channel anyway, is we're going to do my E46 in the next couple of months. We're going to do that. So we're going to restore the underside of the E46, and we're going to train me to do it. Yeah. So it'll be like a training series of taking someone who hasn't, other than just wheeled my Evo around a little bit. We're going to do a training series on that. I'm going to have my ice here and machine up and running, so you're going to see more content on that. I'm sure I'll come up with videos and things like that to do. And then you're going to see, early next year, you're going to see new machines.
We should have specs within 45 days.
And we're going to start to also, probably late first quarter, second quarter, we're going to start to put together our compressor packages, because the reason we haven't really done the packages is we don't really know what works yet very well.
We are peeling the onion back pretty good, and I think we finally landed on the desiccant dryer that's the choice.
Yeah.
But we actually just are getting ours, so we don't have them in service yet, but they are the state-of-the-art dryers.
So we'll be, all the little parts and pieces, we'll be making videos on those and showing you how to connect it, and then obviously putting it on the site, and then writing descriptions and taking photos. And so you're going to see more and more of the stuff trickle in, and then as new stuff comes out, like new tips and nozzles, and then of course the Patreon area will be to go where you want to go get trained and learn different
consulting.
tips.
If you don't want to be trained, you just want to understand what we've learned so far. It's
and that's DRYCE Nation on Patreon, right?
Well, it's actually patreon.com/Dryceman. Okay. But you can just go there if you go to drycenation.com.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, if you go to the website and click through, it'll come through.
And then all the purchases, go to obsessedgarage.com, go to the dry ice section. I think we have it under garage.
Yeah.
As that becomes more robust, we'll have a Dryce tab on the site. But right now there's only a couple. There's like one thing on there.
Stuff, right.
So we'll have that whole section on the site at some point here, and then we'll have compressor packages, and we'll have like a whole package. Like the ultimate package would be booth, curtain, ventilation system, air compressor, dryer, machine, your dry ice delivery subscription. That I can envision us having that. It's $837,000.99. You just click that button and wire us the money, and we're good to go. But that's where we're headed, I think, at some point. And then I do think this is one of those things that, your $65,000 today is going to be $55,000 in 2 years, is going to be $35,000 in 10 years. We're going to see.
But there is going to be. Let's think about it this way. The proper way to look at this is take the dry ice machine out of the element. Completely remove the cost of the dry ice machine. The compressor world is not getting cheaper.
Yeah, and you're right. You're right.
The booth is not getting cheaper.
Yeah.
Nothing besides the dry ice machine has a chance of being less. So for the full-on setup, the spread between now and doing it now ahead of everybody versus later is nothing.
Yeah.
It's almost silly to not do it now.
Yeah, because even if Harbor Freight did have a machine, you still need a 40-horse compressor, or at least a 5-horse compressor.
And they're not going to be $1,000. A $40,000 compressed air system is not going to be $10,000 2 years from now.
No,
it's going to be $50,000.
Because we're using the same crap we've been using for 40 years, and there's no new tech there in the pressurizing air game.
Yeah, it's like take the highest level Concours body shop. Take the painter's gun out of the equation. Doesn't matter. It's everything else.
Yeah, it's an aluminum room with downdraft ventilation, with
the paint
mixing,
and,
right?
Yeah, you got all the stuff you got to have.
There's some tech. Actually, that's gotten more expensive.
Yes,
because now they have automatic mixing stations, and you buy your paint system up front and all this crap. It's gotten much more sophisticated and much more expensive.
Much more expensive.
Because it's become more efficient, which means they're able to hopefully crank out more cars, which makes it more.
Well, the insurance companies drive that.
Yeah,
that's the problem with that industry. The insurance companies drive the price.
Mm-hmm.
They're the 800-pound gorilla, and we don't have that in our space.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I think we're going to continue to hopefully provide the world something with a value set on how to do this stuff. I don't really like to do this kind of stuff of developing new things. I like to take old things and try to make them better. But I'm so intrigued by this, and I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't like crazy interested in doing and using it and being a part of the use of it, and so I'm early adopting something something that I normally wouldn't early adopt because I think it's so freaking awesome.
The thing I'll say about it in general is, as we've played in the space heavily in the last 2.5 years, every person I meet and know that finds out about our involvement, they are intrigued and interested. They're not even car people. They just find it fascinating, and people want to come see the lab. Like, I don't get it. I don't understand. Can I come see the place? We're constantly having that, and that's what tells me. I mean, I've had personal upside opportunity to enjoy. I've had a waiting list since I started. Now the people that we're bringing in the space are having that experience, and the the viral nature of all of it on social media, this is not a flash in the pan. You think about paintless dent removal. It went like this. It was like super high expensive. I trained in the 80s. I trained guys.
Mm-hmm.
It was way high. And then it dipped down because it got competition.
Yeah.
But then it went back up. For the guys that were good,
yeah,
the high-level guys, they're still getting what I used to get back in the 80s.
How, let's say, let me just give you a scenario and we'll wrap this up here today. So let's say I'll pick an age. Let's say I'm 27. I didn't go to college.
Yep.
I'm just kind of working. I'm like a BMW, low-level BMW tech, trying to work my way up, and I'm gonna buy my own tools and all this stuff. I don't have any money. I've got $18,000 in credit card debt. I'm renting. I got an M4. Right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I got an M4, so I got
your priorities
I got
right.
$1,000 a month payment, but I'm able to make that happen because I've got a girlfriend, but I'm not married. I don't have any kids yet. I may get married someday, but I don't know if this is the right girl. And I'm getting real specific here.
I'm waiting for the next level.
And so I want a new career. I like this idea. You're telling me these numbers. You're talking about $300 an hour. How am I? Let's say I wanted to go all in. So I want to get a place. What do you think a rent on a place would cost, like average nationwide?
$10 a foot.
Okay,
so 2,000 square feet at least, so $2,000 a month.
Okay, so I need but I don't have. I'm going to go from zero. I'm making $1,000. No, I'm making $750 a week right now doing what I'm doing. And then I have the option to earn. So I earn an average of $1,000 a week. I'm making $48,000 a year right now. So I don't have any money. I've got a little bit of debt and a nice car and a car payment. But I want to quit that. I want to do this.
Yeah.
So I want to do the full machine you're talking about. I want to do the new machine that's coming in. I want to plan. I'm gonna keep working. I'm gonna build my website. I'm going to build. Start promoting it on Facebook. Start asking all my friends, everybody I know, to start liking it. I'm gonna want to come down and train with you.
But we already have the lead generation.
So Scott, how can I get $65,000 to do this? Will you lend it to me?
No. So Uncle Joe, you probably got a rich uncle that you wish you had.
It's just me, man. I got no one.
And you got nobody. So the other alternative is you come and train with us, and we place you. I pay Rex $40 an hour.
Okay.
So if Rex wanted to go do this on his own now, I got verbal 1-year non-compete with all the people I train. But really, the only way to work past that, I've spent in my career in life, God bless Deborah for tolerating me, I've just plunked it down and took chances all my life. If maybe that's not your nature, you want to do this and you see it, but you don't have the money.
So let's flip this around. You're that guy I just explained, knowing what you know today.
Yeah.
And you're that guy. You wouldn't be $18,000 in debt and have an M4, but
I wouldn't say that. I would tell you in 1986, I was managing an apartment complex. Long story, that I'll leave that alone. I heard about paintless dent removal. Mm-hmm. It was $100,000 to train.
Yeah.
One of my friends finally, at 6 months later, got somebody to train his guy for $10,000. And I said, how about if I just give you 4 and I'll come and watch for 1 day. You don't have to talk to me. I just want to see how they're practicing. So I went down to Springfield, Missouri. I watched. I gave my $4,000. I watched. I came home. I spent 2 months in a damp, cold building in Clinton, Iowa, and taught myself how to make my tools and to do the work. So I didn't have money to spend $100,000, but then instantaneously I was doing panels for $200. I'd do 1 dent for $200. And then I started training people for $8,000 to $10,000. I was flying all over the country. And that's how I got enough money together to start buying and selling cars. So
you're that 27-year-old kid today. You want to start dry icing in March. What would you do?
So the first thing I would tell you is you have to either come and train, because you can't do anything if you don't know how the system works. How are you going to convince someone to loan you money or to even try to do this if you don't know how to do it?
Okay, so step 1 is you're going to go get trained. And what does that cost me?
It's $200 an hour. Personal.
How many hours do I need?
You need a day minimum for
Just
the principles. For the principles, a day. Because
what should I do if I want to be proficient?
2.
Just 2 days?
Just 2 days. Because you really train yourself once you
So
have the
$4
principles.
grand.
Less. We don't do 8 hours. I'm too old to do 8 hours.
Okay,
I don't
so
do 8 hours.
You got lunch
I
in
show
there.
up
you
at
gotta
9.
take
I got
some
a nap. I got to,
Okay, so
Yeah.
4 hours a day. So
Yeah.
5 hours. Let's say 5 hours a day, $1,000 a day. So $2 grand.
I've got at least 20 guys that have done this. Just like the guys you told me. Once they knew, obviously, what happens when you come and you do that? What happens? You leave. It's like when you go to church camp and you come home and you're like flying high, and all your friends are like, "Hey, take it down a notch, would you? We know you're all high on the spirit and all, but just take it down a notch." You come home from training and you're just like, "Oh,
Okay.
I want to do this." So you're now better motivated.
Okay. So
Now, I just created a rental program
for
for you.
Are you going to do what I talked about, where I did I'm working on my website, I'm working on my Facebook following. Are you doing any of that stuff yet? Before training, during
So,
training, after training?
I want to get this third person thing right because we also took care of that. So all of our Patreons cross promote one another. We already have our non-operating Patreons, the guys that aren't working yet.
Mm-hmm.
They're already promoting in their social media the other people that are doing work.
So it sounds like step 2 is then get into
social media.
Get into the Dryce group.
Correct.
on
You're
Patreon.
on Patreon. And so then the next step is I just opened up the door for rentals. Okay, let's say, hey, if you're not going to become a Patreon and you're not going to be a member of the Hex, you shouldn't even come.
Yeah, but I don't need a rental. I know I want to do this. This is my life
but
path.
You don't have the money to buy it.
I
So
don't
I'm
have
gonna
the
give
money
you
to
a path.
rent it either.
You-
That $2 grand I paid you, I just borrowed
You
on
got
my
a
credit
problem.
card.
You got to save some money up.
I can't.
You got to sell that M4.
No.
Your priorities are messed up, brother.
No. I don't want to do that. How can I not do that?
Borrow money from Matt.
So that I want 90%. So now you're an employee again. So again, we're trying to solve this problem for this 27-year-old
It's
M4
real.
guy.
It's real. I've got those guys.
So now I've been trained. So what would you do if you were this kid?
Are you willing to move?
You're trained. I'm willing to go wherever I got to go.
Oh, I can place you.
The only thing I'm not willing to do is sell my car.
I can place
So I
you.
got $1,000 a month payment, and I need another $1,000 a month. So I can live lean for a while.
Problem solved. I can place you.
Okay. So
Done.
Scott, you're going to help me find.
I have people that need somebody now.
Yeah, but I want to do it on my own.
Well, you got a year. You got to work for someone for a year on a non-compete.
How much money could I make? Could I make more than I'm making now to save up?
What do you make now?
I'm making 48 G's.
Yeah, you can make
$4
more.
grand a month. How much more?
Well, I pay Rex $40 an hour.
Okay, so help me out here. Well, how much is that going to be for me for next year? Because I need to save some money.
Yep.
So that I can go get my place. But
So
how am I
if-
going to get the
so
65 grand?
$40 an hour is $100 grand a year if you worked theoretically 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, which you're not gonna.
Well, 40, that'd be 80 grand a year. Yeah, 2,000 hours a year. If you're 8 hours a day, 50 weeks.
What 50 weeks? Who takes
50 weeks
vacations?
a year. Well, I'm just saying, a normal, like you just double it, right? So,
Okay.
so it'd be 80. So you work 10-hour days,
You
5
won't
to
take
6 days a
vacation
week.
in the first few years because you love.
Yeah, you would do 10, 12-hour days, 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Sometimes 6.5 days a week. If it were me, I'd be doing 7 days a week.
Yeah.
You do as many days a week as you have cars to work on.
I find it difficult to accept having so many times gone all in personally.
Yeah.
Like, who gets on a plane and flies to Miami the day after the hurricane to buy boats from insurance companies that you never met before?
Well, these kids, that 27-year-old kid's not you. That's not going to happen. He's
Okay,
not doing
fair.
that.
But I can push them to do it, which I have.
I'm still trying to get to how am I going to get to 65 G's? What's my path? What's my path to get 65 G's and 48 grand or $24,000 a year in rent? So that, because if I spend 65 and 24 in a year, that's 80. Say I got to come up with 95 grand to get up and or 100 grand to get up and running, to make $300 an hour. I can see it. Scott.
Dude, it's
I'm
65
27. I can see it. $300 an hour. If I did 2,000 hours a year, I just made 600 grand.
Can I share? I'm going to show you a personal story with you.
Okay.
I'm getting consistent grief from Deborah, fairly, because, either Rex or I are not over in the building cleaning cars. We got a raft of cars to clean. It's like, what do you? It's the common morning discussion. What's your plan today? What's your plan today? And so I'm very independent, and she's given me that.
Okay.
But I finally drilled down on it one day. I said, honey, if I work 2 hours a day, right, that's $10,000 a month gross.
How do you figure? That's $300 an hour you're talking about?
$250.
So $250 an hour.
2 hours a day is $500.
2 hours, 7 days a week.
5.
Okay. How's my math working out here? So
You're
yeah,
not doing good.
600.
$2,500 a week.
600 times 5 is $3,000 a week. Times 4 weeks, yeah, $12,000 a month. Yeah.
2 hours a day.
So Scott, I'm bought in. I'm 27. I got $18,000 in debt. How do I get to this?
What? Why is only? Did you decide 18,000 in debt is as far as you can go?
No.
Well,
but no one's going to lend me any money.
What do you mean nobody? Where'd you get the $18,000?
It's credit card.
Well, I'll take your credit card.
My limit. I mean, I've got like 6 credit cards to get to. They all have like $2,500 limits. I mean, transferring balances all the time and all that stuff. I don't have an Amex, Platinum. I make $48,000 a year. I want to make $480,000 a year, and you're telling me how to do this, but I need capital to get there. How am I going to get that? I don't even know that word, capital. Erase that. I need money. I need to borrow money. Who could I borrow that from? Do you think a bank would lend it to me?
No. Why? Because you don't have 2 years experience, so don't even attempt that. If you don't have any assets, all right, you don't have a house, you're renting a place, you get the car, I would say today, you're crazy not to sell the M4 because it's worth more than you paid for it 6 months ago.
Right,
you're crazy. And if you do what I'm suggesting, you can buy the M4 back when it's down worth what it's really worth in 6 months, 6 or 12 months.
What am I going to drive?
Whatever you want for less. It's easy. It's easy, right? Whatever you want for less.
Okay.
I mean, it's priorities. You got to decide. I mean,
so what I'm getting at here from me, I'm back to Matt again. I'm 41-year-old Matt with some money in the bank. Now I'm thinking like, well, can we loan shark this kid some freaking money, get him up and running, take a percentage of his revenue for several years? Can we raise some capital here and lend him out at 10%?
So my first mortgage was 17% interest. That was a deal.
Yeah.
In the 80s, right? So what's a good rate of return? You're a former Raymond James guy.
Yeah,
today?
Shoot, I'd take 8 would be fantastic. A good rate of return today is 4.
Yeah. So $25,000 times 8% divided by 12 is $166 a month. So if what I'm hearing from you, simple interest. Yeah. What I'm hearing from you is, all I need to do is put a pool together of my friends and myself and you, and we throw $3-4 million in an account, and we're making 10%. We're shaving some off, or 15%. Like, if you have no options,
and we have a lien on all the equipment we're selling to these guys, and
if
we
you
just
have
go
no
take
options, and we're the only option, yeah, I'm going to hit you hard, but you're going to succeed if you want to work.
You're going to have me paid off. Like, they'll have us paid off in months. We're going to help them. We're going to teach them. We're going to
supply the product,
supply the equipment. We're going to supply them some leads to get them going.
I already have that covered.
And then teach them how to get more leads.
Look, if
I got upwards of $7,800 to put into this $4 million pool for you.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Like my dad used to say, when you get a lowball offer, well, sir, that's the best offer I've had all day, but no. So that's the most anybody's contributed.
How much can I make? If I make 10% return on $7,800, I'm making a decent, $780 a year.
It's all about security, of course. But listen, I'm not opposed to anything that moves the ball for someone else and for us at the same time. That's what it's all about.
I'm just thinking about, how could we capture, because there's a lot of, just guys that just didn't get taught right.
Yeah. And
they just weren't blessed with big brains, but they got good intentions. They got hard work.
You changed that the last second.
They did, but they're sharp enough that they could, you could make 2, 3, 4. I mean, the paintless dent guys, and many of them that they screwed up in school. They didn't go to college. They didn't take that traditional path. You didn't take the traditional path. and yet there's I have one buddy who drives a new GT3 all the time. He does leather repair.
Yeah.
And he's always buying Krenzels and stuff from me, and so he didn't take the traditional education path and all of that. So there are plenty of really people that, using the term sharp, they're sharp in their own way. They're not book smart, and they're not going to go to Wall Street to make their fortune. But these guys, instead of making their life path is headed to 65K for the rest of their lives. Instead, doing this and starting their own little thing, doing dry ice. I don't like to even call it starting their own business.
You're not. You're joining a group. You're joining a community.
When you're doing a single practitioner service related thing, it's not really a business until you start hiring people.
Yeah.
But there's a path for that. You imagine you're making $300 an hour. You've paid off all of your equipment in a year or two. So you paid our loan shark loan you got here, but no one else is going to give you the money. And you're rolling. You're doing say you're billing, even if you're billing 1,000 hours a year at $300 an hour. Even if it's $250 an hour, it's $250K.
It's $50 an hour is the ice cost. If you hired someone like I did for Rex, I pay Rex $40 an hour.
Yeah.
So I take. Just to be conservative, we're going to move to $300 an hour January 1st because I can't manage all the influx of. And we're sending business even to our local guys. So 50 and 50 basically, plus or minus for costs. I'm still $200 an hour net. Yeah. I have the most extravagant dry ice setup in the world, $250,000 invested inside my building to do it at the highest and best level. A few things you don't even know about yet. How can you not be excited about going to that place every day?
How many people have a $250,000 mortgage? Like most of America has.
Not that anybody needs what I put in there, but I just want people to see the full evolution of what's possible to make.
Right. So that's why I say $100,000 or less. Yeah. You're not starting a business with an Evo unless you're doing like spot job stuff as much.
We have had guys start on their own part-time, but I agree with your statement completely. It's not, I don't think that's...
You don't want $3K a month in rent and buying a lift and doing all the things
No.
So I didn't solve the problem for you guys with my, the 27-year-old example here of
I don't know that you didn't inspire though.
But you get what I'm pushing you on here is we need to, so long term, hopefully we can solve a financing solution as well, to help people, lend people the stuff.
What is a bank? A bank is, I served 10 years on a board. It's about risk and reward. Mm-hmm. So if I and we could come up with a
right, if you can mitigate
the risk
with making you have to do this. You have to come to training first, then you have to get in the Patreon. You have to do these things.
Right.
You have to buy this whole service. It's the typical franchise model. Doesn't
but without the I don't like the word franchise. I don't like it. I don't want it.
But a franchise doesn't leave you high and dry.
Right.
They have a training platform. Now they milk you for the rest of your life.
There's so many reasons why not to do a franchise. Yeah. And I'm not saying somebody won't do it, and maybe they succeed more than we do. But I can tell you,
I have no interest in that either.
My opinion is what we've learned through our members on the list is community is everything. We want
to sell the equipment and make a margin.
Yep.
Right, and then we want to sell the training and make a profit.
Yep.
And then the rest, we want to send people off into the. You want to raise the children and then send them off.
The best scenario is that there are techs executing the work way beyond me. That's like the perfect evolution is people are more successful than I have been, and they're doing even higher level work.
Well, those who can't teach, so that's kind of how it goes, right? So yeah. So we got our model here. Now we just got to go raise some capital. Who's in?
I told that to Dawson all the time when he was at college.
Who's in?
He went to SCAD, and he gave me some spiel about his professors.
Yeah.
And I take so much of it, and I finally say, you know why they're teaching, don't you?
Yeah, right.
They couldn't have
failure to launch. Yeah. Yeah, or they got stuck in academia and loved the whole college experience. It just stayed there forever, and because
eternal.
Yeah, it's like the kid who doesn't leave house. He never, because it's way better there than outside of it.
Had a failure, and somebody prominent saw them come off stage, and they were crying. And the guy's like, "What's wrong?" He goes, "Oh, I can't believe it. It just didn't work. I failed." He goes, "Once? You're crying? You only failed once?" I failed like 10 times.
Yeah, it's just funny. Everybody's all about that laser thing you're talking about. It's like 500,000.
No, it's not that much. I think it's 100.
Yeah.
That's Matt, R20, right? R20 Motorsports, yeah.
Yeah, that's R20.
He's one of our great patrons. This guy, we are very fortunate to have some really high-level people in our space. Matt is really the bomb. Go to R20 Motorsports and check out his videos. He's a lot like us. He's an older guy, tried to retire, says he's back into his old position again, but bunch of Porsches and bought the Evo, bought the other machine because he wanted to.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
Good people.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, very good people.
So we're going to solve this problem for people. We're going to develop the systems. We're going to develop the process. We're going to develop all the parts and pieces and accessories that you would need. And then hopefully we're going to solve the dry ice, shortage problem. There's no dry ice shortage.
No.
The issue is the distribution model problem.
Yeah.
And we're going to solve the capital requirements problem and get you some way to borrow the money. And hopefully we can do something real simple where we don't even have to raise the capital. We can use some like bread like I have.
Right,
we can talk
yeah.
to them about building us our own platform or find some bank that would do that for us. To lend it to people, and you have really solid liens on the product. And shoot, if it were me and I was 27, 18,000 in debt, an M4 payment, and I'm willing to move wherever, and somebody said, "Look, I can make $220 or $275 an hour doing something. I get to play with cool cars. You help me set it up." Those are the same kids that sign up for like Grand Canyon University loans, and now
technical schools that
right.
It's like it breaks my heart that someone goes to a technical school for 6 months or longer, and they come out and they're competing in a pool of other people that is massive.
Right, that most of them already have like experience or
there's
certifications.
There's probably less than 250 dry ice technicians in the world.
Yeah, you can just pick where you want to live.
Yeah.
Set up shop. Where do you want to live? What state do you want to be in?
Right.
Where do you want to be? Hopefully find somewhere with inexpensive rent to get started.
Yeah,
or
you don't have to be in a thoroughfare. You don't need high, expensive real estate. You want to be. We go in our space. We close and lock the doors, and there's no windows.
Yeah.
Not anybody knocking on the door.
In the middle of Eustis, Mount Dora, Florida.
Yeah.
Nobody lived there. There's nothing there.
It is a mountain, though. I actually got a guy come from Miami. He said, there really are mountains in Florida. I said, have you ever been north of here? He goes, no.
So that's our business tips of the day here, people. We're helping you help us.
Yeah. Well, that's the perfect relationship, right? Where we can work. I want to win together. I don't want to.
Yeah, I want to make money. Otherwise, I'm not going to waste time. And so it's important to me that we're transparent with this kind of stuff and be as authentic as we can on this. And I think that my example of the M4 guy is the guy. There's
a lot of them.
That's the guy that we can change their freaking lives. Yeah. And do it so sometimes everybody's on the Dave Ramsey plan of no debt, no debt, no debt. Yeah, that's in a perfect world. That's great, but that guy's never getting out of debt. He's just racking it up. That 18K is going to be 36K 2 years from now. Yeah. He's still going to have an M4, but he's going to have the new one. He's going to roll the negative equity into the new one, and he's going to have an $1,800 a month payment because now he's making $62 because he got his ASE certification. He's working his face off. But, he's got a side hustle where he's dealing in Dan Marino rookie cards and stuff. I'm good at painting these little stories. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. This video will live forever. We'll keep going, and lots of content coming on dry ice stuff. We'll see you on the next one.
See y'all later.